Today we're going to be talking about successful CDAT programs, and we're really lucky to have Gail Easton, the current New South Wales CDAT Program Manager, with us. Welcome, Gail.
Thank you, Dennis.
Yeah, and so you start by telling us a little bit about yourself, your current role, and what your involvement has been with the CDAT program up until now.
Sure. Currently my role is as Program Manager for the CDAT program, which is New South Wales based. So I'm fortunate to work with our 4 partners, Odyssey being the lead in the program, which is where I'm employed. We also have the Buddery in the northern region, Karalika in the southern region, and Billamugi out west. So we have 8 CDOs within the program, Community Development Officers, who work across the whole of New South Wales in communities to improve the opportunities for those communities. So we're fortunate to be currently engaged with about 60 of those communities.
That's fantastic. Okay. And you have been involved with the CDAT program prior to coming into this role. Tell us a little bit about that.
Indeed, Dennis. I was previously with the other contract holders, which was the Australian Alcohol and Drug Foundation. And I was a Senior Community Development Officer with them for 4 years. So I've had hands-on experience of actually working in the program on the ground at the grassroots with the communities. So it's fostered really good understanding of what communities actually face, what it is that they look to do and achieve within their communities to reduce some harms and improve some circumstances and outcomes for young people. But all up, I've been in community development for almost 20 years, so it's quite a passion that I have towards supporting people to improve their circumstances and to see opportunities.
That's fantastic, and some wonderful experience that you're bringing to your current role.
I do hope so.
Yes, indeed. And so no doubt during the time that you have been involved, you've seen some pretty good and successful CDAT programs. Can you tell us about a couple of them?
Sure. Something I prepared a little earlier for you, Dennis.
Okay,
one of my pet projects is actually a fridge magnet that came out through the Upper Hunter CDAT. So during COVID 2020, Upper Hunter Community Drug Action Team were actually looking at doing education within the community, so actually face-to-face engaging with parents and young people to talk about the importance of having conversations, difficult conversations, but also factual conversations around the harms that young people might see. Like everybody, COVID flipped everyone on their head, so we had to really rethink how it is that we could still continue to engage within the communities and provide factual information. As we know, fridge magnets are always a winner with regards to having them on your fridge. They're purposeful in that way of holding things on. But what we actually thought with this one, as we can see, is it's a jigsaw puzzle. So in the sense of engaging in conversations that are incidental, accidental and purposeful, this offers a really good opportunity for people to have this on their fridge. Young kids love pulling fridge magnets apart, so it was a really interactive way of getting young people involved. And like we say, just starting those conversations that can be somewhat awkward or difficult for people at times. So the Upper Hunter CDAT actually put on their localised information, so where they can find support locally. 24-hour hotlines, inclusive in the sense of it was for the whole of the community. Sometimes some of the things that we see is that people are reluctant to call 000 if people are in harm's way, so it was encouraging them to ring then. So all of the pieces on the jigsaw puzzle actually had a different message and a different purpose to it. So it was a really great way of engaging in supplying that information out to the community, providing that so that they had those opportunities to help themselves. But one thing that we also were really mindful of in supporting them is how is it that they get that message out into the community. So rather than just handing them out, they were really quite clever in the way that they decided to place them in strategic locations within libraries, within the Upper Hunter. So there was 4 different locations and the community were encouraged to go out and find a fridge magnet, take it home and place it somewhere where it was prominent within their house that they could then create those messages and have those conversations. From that, we encouraged them to take some photos and send them in to us, which was a competition. It was a very tight timeline. Yeah. So we had 2 weeks of the community being able to grab a fridge magnet, take a photo and send it in to us. And as we know, engaging communities can be somewhat slow, but we had close to 100 photos sent in to us, and the printing agency that did the design for us and the fridge magnet actually chose the winners. So what we found from that is that people were encouraged to go out and find the information and take it home, take a photo and give us a narrative of what that actually did for them in their homes and how it is that it included all of the family, but also encouraged conversations.
Sounds like a fabulous idea. First of all, as you say, young children can't resist the idea to pull things apart. Somewhat older children and even adults can't resist the temptation to put things back together.
Very true.
Which encourages that sort of more and more engagement. And then on top of that, to have that photo competition is a way of just making sure that people not only engage further, but stay engaged and stay interested. And they want to find out who's won the competition and how, etc. It's just a brilliant strategy all round.
Absolutely. The real strength from that one as well, Dennis, is that throughout COVID, a lot of the CDATs were struggling to engage face-to-face with their communities. So as the Senior Community Development Officer in that space at the time, my prop was there's a fridge magnet that's been developed by the Upper Hunter Community Drug Action Team. It is a jigsaw. Is that something that you would consider in your own community? So this particular design and colours is now sitting within 6 communities across New South Wales from one idea that's come from a CDAT. So a real strength not only for communities to gain some information and be pointed in the right direction, but also support for CDATs to see how creative they can be to get that message out into the community.
Yeah. That's fabulous. And what kind of lessons can most CDATs learn from the exercise that the Upper Hunter went through in terms of thinking about it and then coming up with that idea?
I think one of the important things that we encourage all of the CDATs to think about is not to get too fixated on a program if it can't be delivered. There's always another way of being able to get your message out there into the community. So it's about being creative and thinking outside of the box. The lessons that we learned, like everybody through COVID, is when you get too fixed in a position, it's often difficult to move. So remain flexible, be open to suggestions. Think about what it is that your community is actually in need of, which generally is information. They need to know where it is that they can reach out. If you can't do it face-to-face, what are the other avenues that you can actually have a look at that will engage with your community? How can you have those conversations? Are there other service providers that could come on board and provide you with information and support you in your message, be a conduit for that message to get out there? So it's definitely about being flexible, about being open. And as we know, the last 2 years have certainly challenged us all with being able to adapt and change.
Fabulous. That's a great example. What's another example of something that you've been involved in your time?
Yeah, I've been really fortunate, Dennis, in the role of Senior Community Development Officer and now with the Program Manager, of being able to listen to the stories. One in particular is out at Condo, so way out west where the rain don't fall. They, for the last few years, was probably about 3 years ago, they identified that out in Condo itself that there's not a lot of public transport. But at the end of the day, farmers love to have a beer. So there was a real concern around the safety of those farmers getting home, and quite often they would go, one more won't harm, it's only a 10-minute drive. So Condobolin really focused around the harms that were associated with drink driving, not only to the drivers but to the general public. So how is it that they could create a message and work with educating not only the patrons of the licensed venues, but also embracing the licensed venues themselves and their staff. So they came up with a project is, what's your plan? What they've discovered is that through conversations over, as I say, it's been going for about 3 years, and it's building in momentum more and more each year. So it's a great focus around harm minimisation around alcohol, drink driving, and the harms that it does create within the community. But also for the publicans to have a look at, they have a sense of responsibility. We know that they're need to be responsible servers of alcohol, but how is it that we can have some of that message without taking their business away from them as well, because that's their livelihood. So it's about a partnership of communication. So Condo have worked with, they started off with I think 3 licensed venues. They've now got about 5 or 6 licensed venues that are actively involved with them, and they've printed up some t-shirts that's what's your plan on the front, and on the flip side of it, it really promotes the CDAT in the sense of branding it, but promoting it of what's your plan, it's only a 10-minute walk. So rather than the 10-minute drive, what's the 10-minute walk? So it was about educating the publicans about the importance of noticing how the patrons were consuming alcohol and were they at risk. Were they going to be over the limit to drive home, and what sort of harm does that put out into the community? So the t-shirts were provided to staff. The staff wear them whilst they're on shift, and they're educated. They were providing them with some awareness and education about the harms that were associated with it. So it's that fold-on effect of education and awareness within the staff that are at the licensed venues, and from them having those anecdotal conversations over the bar about maybe it's a lemonade this time, or perhaps a glass of water, or do we need to call you a cab? So it's really engaging in that. So there's more cohesion within the community. It's not we're trying to take business away from you, we're just trying to keep you all safe. They've taken an extra step in the sense of they've also engaged young people within the schools in a art competition, and the winning art was then placed onto a drink bottle, which are then handed out at venues, at events, at community events, at NAIDOC Week, Youth Week, those sorts of places. So it continues to promote that message, but it also, again, a fold-on effect is by engaging young people in that conversation to create some art. We're educating those as we go as well. So we're starting quite young. We're helping them with a really strong positive message of drink responsibly, be mindful of the harms that are associated with it, and to start layering up that awareness and education as they get older. And then another step from there, so there's, as you can see, they build upon an idea can start very small, but it can grow into a rather large community engagement project as well, in the sense of they have a massive banner that now goes across the main street of Condobolin that again says, what's your plan? It's only a 10-minute walk. So they're the sorts of things that from small things, big things grow, as Paul Kelly coined it, and coined it quite well. We love to take that on board, but also the motto that we have within the CDAT program is we're stronger together. So that's what we look to do with all of the CDATs that we work with, is a small idea can grow into something large, and then we're able to share that information with other community drug action teams right across New South Wales.
That's fabulous. So the takeaways, I guess, from the Upper Hunter and the Condobolin experience, that be creative, be flexible. Sometimes people can get in the mindset that this is how we want to do things, and it's difficult to shift from that, but circumstances such as COVID or other things come around and they cause us to rethink things. So being prepared to be flexible and to think of different ways of getting the same message across. And then also to, like in the case of Condo, having got a good idea, it doesn't need to stop there. You can keep building on it.
Absolutely.
So flexibility, creativity, and a lot of engagement. I just really like the idea of engaging the children in the schools to come up with ideas, because it sounds like then the message reaches everybody in the community, and it's really all about let's keep one another safe.
Certainly is, Dennis. That's the primary message of our program, is how do we reduce the harms and mitigate the risks that are associated with it. It's not about abstinence, it's about being safe. Yes. It's about reducing harm so that it doesn't perpetuate into families over generations. We do see a lot of that, but it's about how is it that we can disrupt that and help people to be healthier within their own spaces.
Fabulous. Well, Gail, thanks very much for your time, and thanks for the wonderful input, some really great ideas.
Wonderful. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay.